What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today, and welcome to my channel. Spring is here. The calendars have flipped over to spring, and you all know what that means. I apologize for this video coming out late, especially since there's probably already a game playing as this video has gone up. But as I said, I am going to cover the UFL. I think I'm going to do one video a week, and it's going to be my power rankings, and it's also going to be my predictions for the games that are happening that weekend. So that's exactly how we're going to do the UFL this year. First, I'm going to talk about all the teams, kind of my impressions and my initial power rankings, and then we'll go through and we'll predict everything that is going to happen in the UFL this upcoming week, or I should say this weekend, as it is here, right? Again, probably already a game going on by the time this video gets out. I sincerely apologize for that. It's the XFL and USFL champs that will be playing, and this is the XFL USFL merger league. But hey, I talk mainly about college football on this channel. I am a huge college football guy, and if you are too, hit the subscribe button down there, like, comment, share, and do anything you can to help support the channel. It does mean a lot to me. So again, with all of that, it's time for some spring football, baby. I plan to get these videos out maybe every Wednesday or Thursday. Had some scheduling things happen. Couldn't quite get it out when I wanted to, yet we are getting it out right now. So let us just dive right on in. It's an 8-team league as of right now. You're taking 4 from the XFL, 4 from the USFL, merging them into the UFL. A lot of good games this week, a lot of really good teams, a lot of very good players. We're going to talk about a lot of them here in this video. As we dive on into the power rankings, how I'll do my power rankings in the UFL is I'll go 1 to 8. So I'll start out with who I think is the best team, and we'll gradually go on to who I believe is, for lack of better terminology, the worst team. But again, a lot of very good teams, very good players. Let's start at number 1. And I mean, first of all, if my slide would change over, there we go. It is hard to not put the Birmingham Stallions at number 1. Pretty much everyone that I've seen covering this league has the Birmingham Stallions as the best team in this league. They are 2-time USFL champions in 2022 and 2023, boasting a 21-3 overall record, 4-0 in postseason play. They are coached by Skip Holtz, and this is still probably the best team entering the UFL season. Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez fighting for that quarterback spot. I do believe Matt Corral is going to get that starting nod, as I believe he is set to start the game that is happening today. That probably is either proven or disproven, as the game, again, probably has already started. But again, we'll cover that here later. Running backs, you got CJ Maribel, Ricky Person. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Larry Roundtree is here as well. But I do know that he is battling some injuries right now. You probably have the best wide receiver slash tight end core, probably the best core of pass catchers in the entire league. Deion Kane has been amazing. Benjamin Victor, of course, a former Ohio State prospect. Amari Rogers, a former Clemson wide receiver. And Jay Sternberger is a phenomenal tight end. He can run, or I should say he can pass catch, he can block, he can do a lot of things very nicely. But this defense as well, not a lot of names that, again, I have put on here on the defensive front, but a lot of studs. Taco Charlton is a former Michigan prospect. He also does have legit NFL experience. Carlos Dalis, Jonathan Garvin, and many others are really good. You have a really good group of linebackers, while DeMarquise Gates is battling some injuries right now. I don't think he's playing. Scooby Wright, Kayava Tizino, Elijah Sullivan. Those are some really good guys, and you have a ton of ballers in that secondary as well. Chris Jackson, Ike Brown, Kenny Robinson, JoJo Tillery, and there are many other names that I could have listed here on the on this little short, very short roster preview. All that you have to know is this is a team that has one of the best defenses in the league, at least in my opinion. They have probably the best offense in the league in terms of overall production and what they are capable of. They have the experience. They have the postseason history. The Birmingham Stallions are ready to hopefully run through the UFL this season. They are number 1 in my power rankings, and they should be in yours too. You see the schedule that they will play right below me. They do open up today with Arlington, so a couple road games here for the Birmingham Stallions. I know some people are saying, well, that first season for the USFL was only played in Birmingham. Of course, they were going to win the title, but it really does speak to, again, just how good this team is and what Skip Holtz has done with this team. Very good team, very good players. They're number one in my power rankings. Number two is a team out of the, or I should say, a team out of the former XFL. They were XFL runner-ups last year, a 10-2 record overall, including postseason play, where they went 1-1, lost to the Arlington Renegades in the XFL Championship. They are number two here on my list. And after a look at the CFL, XFL Offensive Player of the Year last year, and Jordan Ta'amu is coming back. He is amazing. He can get outside of the pocket and run. There were a lot of play action plays, a lot of one read plays that worked really well for DC last year, and that's probably what they're going to go back to this year. Now, Abram Smith is not totally healthy right now. He might be out for the first couple of weeks, so it's up to a former Miami player from the Miami Hurricanes and Cameron Harris, Darius Haggins, to pick up the slack there in the run game while stud Abram Smith is out. He was absolutely electric for DC last year in the XFL. You do have a lot of very good wide receivers and tight ends here as well. Chris Rallen, Kiki Cutie, Brandon Smith, Briley Moore, and then Alex Ellis at tight end. So there are still a good group of pass catchers, but Jordan Ta'amu, the leader of this team, is what stands out offensively here. And then defensively, I mean, you got a ton of studs up front there. Trent Harris, my apologies, and David Bellamy are some of the best in the business on the defensive line in spring ball. Joe Wallace, TJ Barnes, Derek Roberson, all these guys are really, really good, and it doesn't stop there. Their linebacking group is phenomenal. Francis Bernard, Reggie Northrup, Anthony Hines, Mohamed Sanogo is a newcomer this year, a former Louisville player. We know what he can do. We have seen him at the college level. Michael Joseph and Thuala Kelly, probably pronouncing that name wrong, I apologize. Deontay Anderson, DJ Swearinger, Garyon Conley is on this team as well. So many great players here. DC ran through the XFL last year with one slip up. I believe they beat Seattle in the semifinals in the XFL. A lot of good players from that team, formerly the Seattle Sea Dragons in the XFL, will be playing here in this league. I've probably said a couple of them already here throughout these first two teams without even realizing it, but this is one of the favorites to win the league this year. They are probably the favorite to win the XFL league, and DC looking ready to run again here in 2024 in the UFL. We'll move on here to number three, where I have the St. Louis Battlehawks, another former member of the XFL. They were 7-3 last year, but because of the division they played in the division with DC and Seattle. Those are the two teams that made the postseason, so St. Louis was sitting at home during those postseason weekend, so no postseason experience for this team, but they have one of the best home field advantages in the league. They have one of the best fan bases, period, in the league, and they probably have one of the best quarterbacks in the league as well. AJ McCarron is still a commodity that is wanted, and he is bad phrasing. He is still a commodity that is very, very valuable and very, very needed, not wanted, needed here on this team. Very good player. He will be really good for the Battlehawks this year, as he has a ton, and I mean a ton, of weapons to work with. Now, what you would figure to be wide receiver one and Ja'Cour Pearson is out with injury right now, but you have a ton of other guys that are going to step up and make plays. Hakeem Butler, Darius Shepard, Blake Jackson, and the tight end Jake Sutherland as well. This is a really good group of pass catchers, and it doesn't stop there. The running back room is really good too. Wayne Gallman and Mateo Durant. Gallman, a very good back. Durant, a former Duke Blue Devil. Those are going to be some really good guys. Their defensive front is loaded with talent. Their linebacking room, hey, former Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year Mike Rose is here. Willie Harvey is here. Lakeem Williams. Their defensive back has Kalen Kennedy, Ben DeLuca, Lavert Hill, so many other phenomenal players. They open their season today as well against the Michigan Panthers. And if you want not necessarily a sleeper to win the league, they are going to be one of the favorites. But if you want to go maybe a little bit off of the beaten path, and you want to say someone other than DC, someone other than Birmingham, who probably are the two guys that, or not two guys, but two teams that everyone is probably picking here to win this league. Seattle is a great pick here. They really do have it all. They have the defense to be able to close out games late. They have the offense to score points when they need to. They have the individual playmakers. They have the system. They have the team. I love this St. Louis team. I love putting them here at number 3, and the St. Louis Battlehawks are ready to roll for the UFL 2024 season. I do sit them at number 3. All right, number 4 is your XFL champion from last year. The Arlington Renegades are back. Only fitting. Hey, you won the XFL. Why not get a shot to go play in the UFL as well? Bob Stoops' team I have sitting here at number 4. Now, I understand they won the XFL last year, and they're going to get a shot to go ahead and beat the Birmingham Stallions. And this is a Stallions team that, again, I already just spoke really highly of, but this is a Renegades team that still has a ton of phenomenal pieces on it, starting with the quarterback position. Luis Perez is back. This is probably the best group of skill position players that Luis Perez has had throughout his playing career as well. You take a look at the running back room, Davion Smith and Letty Brown are going to be leading that group, and this is probably one of the best pass catching rooms in the entire league. Lujuan Winningham, Tyler Vaughns, Javante Payton, Deontay Burnett, Sal Cannella at the tight end was one of the leading receivers among tight ends in, I believe it was the XFL last year, as I do believe he was an Arlington Renegade player last year. Again, you take a look at all those names there. I believe Winningham battling some things right now, but Tyler Vaughns had a phenomenal XFL championship game last year. He's just going to look to continue right where he left off. A great group of pass catchers, and when you have a guy who's as talented as Luis Perez leading this offense, yeah, you better know that Arlington is going to be scoring some points, and they are going to be in some very offensive games this year if it comes down to it. And defensively, well, it doesn't stop there. Pretty solid on the defensive front with guys like Jalen Redmond, Laron Stokes, Devontae Lambert, and some other guys there as well. Vic Beasley is in that linebacking core. That is a huge get for the Arlington Renegades in a group that already included Colin Schooler and Donald Payne. Darren Evans, Gene Harris, Cam Brown, and Jamal Carter are going to be back there in that secondary. So while Arlington, in my personal opinion, may not be as flashy as some of these other teams that we see. They may not be as flashy as, say, Birmingham or DC, or maybe even in some aspects, St. Louis. But they have the receiving core, they have the defensive front, they have the playmakers, they have the quarterback, and they have the championship experience needed to go win the UFL this season. Definitely a team that I would consider getting into postseason play. Again, interesting to see how they look against the Birmingham Stallions to open up their season. That's going to be a heck of a game that I will preview here a little bit later. So that is the top half of the UFL, and I don't think it is really debatable on who's in the top half and who's in the bottom half. I believe the 4 teams that I have just listed, in whatever way you want to order them, probably besides moving Birmingham out of that top spot, they probably need to stay there. Those are probably the top 4 teams here in this league. So when you move into the bottom half, if you will, hey, there are still some really good sides here, and some sides that are some teams that look, if you want a value pick to go ahead and win this league, I'll start with this team right here, the Memphis Showboats. They played in another spring league in 2022. They replaced, I believe it was Tampa Bay. I believe it was the Tampa Bay Bandits in 2023 as the 8th member of the USFL. And I mean, it went okay, 5-5 record. There were definitely some ups and some downs. They pulled off some upsets. They lost some games that they really shouldn't, and it's definitely going to be a very interesting battle here for Memphis this year. This is probably one of the more interesting teams to watch in the UFL. Hey, quarterback, Case Cookus, I believe 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, throughout the past couple of seasons. So he's played really, really well. Darius Victor at running back could prove to be one of the best running backs here in this league, in this wide receiver tight end room. While it's not necessarily the flashiest, it doesn't have the biggest names, I think it is undervalued and could prove to be a top 3 group in this league. Vinny Papel, Jonathan Adams, David Davis, Sage Surratt at the tight end. There are a lot of very good players here for this Memphis team offensively, but their defense is really what is going to lead this team, especially on that defensive front. A ton of very solid players on that defensive front. It starts with John Adkins, who is an absolute beast. Dalen Mack, PJ Hall, Jeff McCullough, Connor Christian, many other names on that defensive front that I could have mentioned. This is a very, very deep defensive front, and it doesn't stop there. When you move into the linebacking room, Anthony Butler, Vontae Diggs, TJ Neal. When you move into the secondary, Kyrie Woods, TJ Green, Quentin Meeks. This is a defense that is going to force takeaways and is going to make a lot of these offenses in this league very, very they're going to be able to slow down a lot of the more potent offenses in this league. If this defensive front is playing well and this back seven is not missing assignments, they're going to be able to match up well with the teams like Birmingham, with the teams like DC, with the teams like St. Louis that are going to have a potent offense in this league. Now, how can the offense step up? And this wide receiver room, as I've mentioned, could prove to be really good, but I haven't really mentioned that they also could prove to be a not so great unit. So as long as Case Cookus can find his guys, Darius Victor can pick up the slack in the run game, and the defense plays really, really well, this is a showboat team that I think can surprise some people this year, but as of right now, I got them sitting at number 5. Number 6, okay, this is where some of the teams get confusing. So the Houston Roughnecks were an XFL brand, but they took the USFL side. So they took the USFL coaching staff, team, front office, everything like that, and they rebranded it with the XFL branding. Originally, they were the Houston Gamblers. Now they are the Houston Roughnecks. I know it was technically XFL branding, but they will be playing in the USFL division, if that makes sense. They had an 8-12 record, did the Gamblers throughout the 2 leagues in the USFL. Again, no postseason experience for them. So a team that maybe has a little bit to prove here, but a lot of great players on this team. Jarrett Guarantano and Nolan Henderson got a pretty solid 1-2 quarterback duo right there. Mark Thompson, who I know is battling some injuries right now, might be the best running back in this league. Behind him, though, while he may be unavailable again, who knows what his status is going to be for that game against Memphis. TJ Pledger, Tyon Evans, those are going to be guys that are going to have to pick up the slack in the wide receiver tight end room. A lot of great pieces here. Justin Hall, Kiki Chisholm, Isaiah Henney, Kirk Merritt. I don't think this is the team that's going to use their tight ends a lot as a pass catching round, more of a run blocking and getting maybe some short little crossing routes. Braden Bowman figures to be that lead tight end. So this is going to be a team that's going to rely a lot more on their wide receivers than their tight ends in the pass catching realm. But these tight ends at times are going to act like a sixth offensive lineman, but they also can get out and catch these short little crossing routes, the drags, the slants. Apologies for whatever that was, things like that. I'm going to take a quick water break. All right, let's get back into it. Defensively, this might be one of the best defensive units in the entire league. I apologize for what is happening with the text sizing here. I know it is weird, but especially in that linebacking round. But defensive line-wise, Chris Odom is here, Keontae Shad, Adam Rodriguez, Carlo Kemp. Forgot the first name on there, Toby Johnson. Linebacking realm, Reuben Foster and Gabriel Sewell might make up the best 1-2 pairing in the league when it comes to the linebacking room. Defensive backs, Markel Roby, Javon Hicks, Donald Rutledge, Jimmy Moreland, Corn Elder. Corn Elder figures to probably be CB1 coming into this year. This is a Houston Roughnecks team that, again, I know they're sitting right here at number 6, but if everything goes right, they're able to get their way into the playoffs. Again, Birmingham probably going to be one of those 2 playoff teams, and Houston and Memphis right there for that second spot, at least in my personal opinion. But when you look at those 2 sides, I mean, hey, those are Houston can absolutely compete. They're going to make a run for the postseason, whether they get there or not. If they get there, watch out for whoever that number 1 team is, especially if it's Birmingham. This is a Houston team that's probably going to pull out some upsets this season, and this could be a really, really fun team to watch if they can get healthy and if everything goes right. But for right now, I do have them sitting at number 6. San Antonio for me is sitting at number 7. They were an XFL member last year and had a pretty poor season. I mean, 3-7 is just not that great of a record, and San Antonio is going to look to prove that, hey, we have improved since last year. This is a different team. And you know what? Still a lot of good players here. Chase Garbers is going to be that new quarterback. Now, again, I haven't really shown a whole lot of offensive linemen here. But on the offensive line, this is a retooled offensive line, which means that there are going to be some bugs to figure out. For Chase Garbers, that's just meaning that, like, hey, you might have to make some plays and you might have to show out really, really early in the season, which I don't think is going to be a huge problem for him. We've seen what Chase Garbers can do at the collegiate level, and he does have a lot of pretty good weapons around him. Anthony McFarland, John Lovett, Bryson Elaine, I'm probably pronouncing that last name wrong. I apologize sincerely. In the running back room, wide receiver slash tight end, or the pass catching room, John Trey Kirkland, Justin Smith, TJ Vasher, Landon Akers, Cody Latimer is going to be that tight end for this team. So there are options for Chase Garbers to work with. Yes, you're going to need guys like McFarland and Lovett to really be able to step up and take pressure off of Chase Garbers and this pass game, especially if this offensive line still has some issues in pass protection. Maybe if they have issues in run protection as well. It's very hindrant on what the offensive line does, because I do believe some games Chase Garbers is going to need to play really, really well. In some games, this running back tandem, or running back trio, I should say, is really going to have to step up. Now, defensively, a lot of very good players here. I believe they have retooled a lot of this defense, including that secondary, but a lot of guys in that defensive front still staying here. Kavion Patton, Delonte Scott, Tim Ward, Teron Vincent, I believe, is a new addition here to this team. In the linebacking room, a lot of talented pieces there, including Tavante Beckett, who I think is a very underrated player. And then in the defensive back room, Jordan Mosley, Bryce Thompson, AJ Hendy, Darius Phillips, some other names in there as well. San Antonio is a retooled team, and again, they have the pieces. While I don't quite know if they're going to be pushing for the postseason as the last XFL division member that I have ranked here, they definitely are a team that can pull off some upsets, and if they can continue to improve and retool things, maybe a couple years down the line, the Brahmas can be a team to watch out for. Right now, I got them sitting at number 7, and for me, the Michigan Panthers are sitting right here at number 8, a USFL member in 2022 and 2023, a 6-15 record overall, including one postseason game, which they did end up losing. And for me, while I think there are things to like about this Michigan Panther team, especially on that defensive front 7, we're going to start there because it might be the best in the entire league. If not the defensive front 7, the defensive line can be really, really, really good. Breland Speaks, Garrett Marino, TJ Carter, Daniel Wise, Kenny Willekes has some legit NFL experience in the linebacking room. Frank Ginda, Deshaun White, Noah Dawkins, Javin White. Those are some guys that are playing really well in the defensive back room. Keontae Harden, Nate Brooks, Corian Ballard, Bryce Torrendon, Levante Taylor. This is a defense that can be able to get it done, and a offense that does have some good pieces. Quarterback, it's really kind of a three-way battle. Danny Etling, EJ Perry, and Brian Lewerke are all here. You would figure that EJ Perry would keep his starting job, right? You would figure that EJ Perry is going to keep his starting job. However, who knows, right? So, again, I personally have not seen a starter yet, but I do believe that EJ Perry is probably going to end up being the guy that starts at quarterback. And you take a look at that running back room. Wes Hills was the USFL leading rusher last year. He might need to pick up a lot of the slack on this offense, especially if the offensive line is not performing, and if EJ Perry can't find some chemistry with the wide receivers here. Not necessarily the most talented group, but hey, they got some really good playmakers. Trey Quinn and Devin Ross are two of them. Marcus Sims, Jordan Sewell are some really good players in their own right. And Cole Hikutini, I apologize if I pronounced that last name wrong again, will be that tight end. This is a Michigan Panther team that, look, I just like a lot of teams more. There are a lot of very good pieces here, a lot of very good individual things, but overall as a team, I mean, that 6-15 record over 2 years in the USFL really does speak. You had to get that Michigan market here, and this is probably one of the more passionate fan bases as Ford Field gets packed when these games come. But this is the team that's got to show me something, right? This is the team that's got to show that they have what it takes. And especially when you have teams like Birmingham and Houston and Memphis in your division, especially a team like Birmingham. Hey, if things go really, really well, maybe they're able to pass Memphis and Houston. But for right now, Michigan, the Michigan Panthers, I believe, have a ton to prove, and they're going to be sitting here as my 8th place team. Okay, there is your power rankings all wrapped up. So now what we're going to do is dive on in to weekly predictions. Week 1 of the UFL is here. Again, probably by the time this video goes up, it is already underway. So let's just go ahead and start out with the matchup that everyone is here to see. It's the USFL versus the XFL champions to open the UFL season. Sorry, another water break. Hey, make sure you stay hydrated. It is important. You know, if they say hydrate or dihydrate, please hydrate, please drink water. All right, let's begin here with this game. I've already talked to you how I think the Stallions are the best team in the entire league and why they can win their 3rd straight spring league title here in the first year of the UFL. But the Arlington Renegades, while they had a poor regular season last year, only went 4-6. They got hot late. They played really, really well. There were a lot of guys that stepped up and played phenomenally. And Arlington is absolutely a team that can challenge Birmingham and win this league. For the Stallions, Matt Corral is going to be that starting quarterback. Again, as I've seen, you guys will probably already be able to prove or disprove that in the comment section down below. But he's going to establish himself early. This is going to be a guy in Matt Corral that's going to get going early. He's going to find this explosive group of Birmingham Stallions weapons, but you need to get the ground game involved here as well. You got to get guys running on the ground. You got to get guys like CJ Maribel involved here in this game, because this is an Arlington defensive front that can punish you, and especially can punish this Birmingham Stallions offensive line. But where the Stallions need to be strong defensively, this defensive front is going to have its pretty darn good moments. However, the Stallions defensive backs are going to need to be really, really strong. Like, really, really strong, because, again, this is an Arlington team that I've talked about has a ton of dynamic playmakers. It starts with Luis Perez at quarterback, might prove to be the best quarterback in the entire league once the season is all said and done. But when you really get down to it, guys, this is just going to be a very tough matchup for the Stallions defensive backs. They got to be able to protect the long passes. They got to cover the short stuff underneath. This is going to be a really tough matchup for Birmingham here in this game. And what Arlington has to do to be able to pull this one out, hey, dynamic playmakers have to be dynamic. They have to make big plays. This is a wide receiver group that, again, I said could be the best in the entire league. They may have to prove that early, and guys like Tyler Vaughn's, Burnett, and others are definitely really going to have to step up. But again, you want to talk about matchups with the defensive backs. This is a Birmingham group that also has probably one of the best group of pass catchers, if not playmakers in general, in the entire league. So you have to be strong defensively, but especially in that defensive back room, because Birmingham is going to air it out. Matt Corral, we know what he can do after seeing his time at Ole Miss, and he got drafted to the NFL draft for a reason. While Matt Corral can get out and run, the kid has an arm, and I say kid, but that of course is me watching him in Ole Miss when he was still a teenager, 20-year-old, and again, who might have talked? I'm only 21. I should say Matt Corral just plays really, really well. And he's going to take some deep shots. He's going to find his guys underneath. It's going to be a really fun matchup. I think the defense is going to continue to be a staple here for Arlington this season. However, I believe that Birmingham at the end of the day will have too many weapons. Just too many weapons. I think will make too many plays. I think Matt Corral is going to insert himself into this system and I think play really well. The Stallions, again, all lines and odds will be, as of recording this video, that I have seen. We're the 3.5-point favorite. Game is probably already kicked off by now. And I'll go with Birmingham to win this game. 26-20 is where I have my final score. I do believe it's going to be a defensive battle early. And again, both these offenses are going to need time to feel things out. Every offense will. It's a brand new league, brand new in some ways rule set that you got to be able to get used to. I believe that Birmingham at the end of the day has too many weapons offensively, and I think in terms of which defensive back grouping is stronger, I believe that to be the Birmingham Stallions. They'll get the job done, and the two-time USFL champs will be off and running in the UFL season. I got them winning 26-20. We'll move on to matchup number 2. It's the St. Louis Battlehawks and the Michigan Panthers. So this is going to be a very intriguing matchup. You see St. Louis is the 6.5-point favorite, as they should be. Again, this is the Michigan team that I feel like there's not a whole lot to really get excited about quite yet. With St. Louis, there is a ton to get excited about for this team. However, I spoke about it when I previewed St. Louis. Without Ja'Cour Pearson, with him being hurt right now, others are going to step up, and the without should be two spaces, so they are without Pearson, but others are going to step up. Again, this is probably one of the most dynamic group of playmakers in the entire league. AJ McCarron is probably, again, a lot of contenders to prove to be really good quarterbacks here in this league, but AJ McCarron's a guy that is going to show out. He's going to play really, really well, and this is an offense that is going to move. Now, the tricky part is that this is a Michigan Panther defense that can definitely slow down St. Louis and can definitely keep pace, but the offensive balance for St. Louis is going to show. They have a great set of pass catchers, and A.J. McCarron is going to find them, but this is a team that's not going to rely on A.J. McCarron to do everything, right? They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to pound it inside. They're going to set the tone on the ground and then be able to air it out long. And A.J. McCarron, we know from his playing days at Alabama back in the day. God, to think that that was almost a decade ago. In fact, I think it was over a decade ago now is kind of just crazy to me. But anyway, the offensive balance is going to show up. Other weapons are going to step up with Ja'Cour Pearson out. Now, defensively, you got to get that front seven engaged because Michigan, with that leading rusher whose name is escaping my mind right now for whatever reason, they're going to pound the rock and pound the rock and pound the rock. This is the team that is going to run. That defensive front seven has got to be engaged, and they have got to be rearing and ready to go. Now, for the Michigan Panthers, we just said the run game can move, and even though this is the St. Louis team that has a lot of good pieces in the defensive front seven, it is going to be a run game that can move the ball down the field. It is going to happen. It is what this Michigan team does. They will beat you on the ground. They're just too talented not to. But can the pass game get going? That's probably the biggest question mark here. Whoever happens to play quarterback out of the three names that I just mentioned, hey, this is a Panther defense that can probably hold its own in certain ways. But can this pass game really get going? Is this a pass game that is going to be reliable this year? Is it a pass game that's going to be able to pick up the slack if the run game is struggling, right? As much as St. Louis needs to get their defensive front seven engaged, it's a secondary that also is going to have to be on its toes, especially if that front seven is doing its job and slowing down the run. I don't know if you're quite going to be able to stop it just because of all the talented pieces in this Michigan Panther backfield. However, I do believe that you are going to be able to slow it down in some ways for St. Louis. For the Michigan Panthers, again, defense is going to be a huge staple here. You have to be able to bully the offensive line, and you have to pressure A.J. McCarron. You have to get in his face. You have to force quick decisions. And honestly, you're probably going to have to force some turnovers. You're going to need to force some 3-and-outs. Short possessions are the key if Michigan wants to be able to pull off the upset here in this game. However, I just don't see it. I mean, I really do think that the Battlehawks are a team to watch out for in this league. Obviously, you have your favorites like Arlington and Birmingham and DC, but don't sleep on St. Louis. Again, this is the team that went 7-3 last year. They didn't make the postseason just because there was another team in the XFL in the Seattle Sea Dragons that I believe had some tiebreakers there in order to beat them out. But this is the Battlehawk team that is going to be ready to play. And this is the Battlehawk team coming into this season. Watch out, because if this is the team that's sitting atop the standings board at the end of the season, I would not be fully surprised. I think the Battlehawks are going to show up and show out. Just two little questions answered for me for the Michigan Panthers for me to be confident and reliable, or for me to be confident in them and for them to be a reliable team. They're going to be able to score their fair share of points. They're going to be able to drive the ball down the field with that run game. But I think not really knowing what your pass game is capable of is going to be a huge, huge downfall. And I also do believe that this is going to be a Michigan Panther defense that might very well face the most dynamic offense in the league with St. Louis. I got St. Louis winning this one 31-16 as we move on to the games being played on Sunday. Another quick water break before we talk about the DC Defenders and the San Antonio Brahmas. Personally, now this might throw some bias in here, but personally, until a team gets put in my home state of Ohio, I'll kind of follow DC. Sure, why not? I mean, you got to pick a team to root for. I guess I'll side on DC. I picked them all the way back in 2020. I stuck with them last year. Why not? We'll go ahead and go with the DC Defenders. Hey, Jordan Ta'amu is back, and he is ready to roll. The XFL Offensive Player of the Year last year is going to have probably another phenomenal season, and I would imagine that Jordan Ta'amu might post some even better numbers than he posted last year. Again, he got a look at the CFL, didn't go there, so Jordan Ta'amu will be that quarterback for the DC Defenders in 2024, and he's got a ton of weapons around him. Now, growing pains will happen, especially offensively, because Jordan Ta'amu does have a lot of new guys in the system, a lot of new pass catchers, a lot of new running backs, especially with Abram Smith out. It's just a lot of new. And again, new league, new teams, new system. Growing pains will happen. They cannot persist. They cannot, because this is a San Antonio team that, as I spoke on before, can be very, very dangerous. And if you want to look for an upset here, this very well may be the one that you want to pick. However, what's going to make DC really tricky to beat here in this game is their defensive game plan and their defensive system. They like to disguise a lot. They disguise blitzes, they disguise coverage. It's all about disguise, and it's going to happen all game long. San Antonio's going to need to figure out some sort of pattern. They're going to need to be on their toes, as this is a Brahmas team that, again, may not be the best talent-wise, but when they put everything together, oh boy, this is the Brahmas team you have to watch out for. Again, as I said, oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this with San Antonio, Donald De La Hoya, otherwise known as the YouTube sensation Destroying, is the kicker here for this team. So, hey, again, not that I know him personally or anything, but from one content creator to another, would like to wish Destroying some good luck here in the 2024 UFL season with the San Antonio Brahmas. I believe he is going to be that kicker on the roster. Who knows, might come in, do some punting duties and things like that. But as I was talking about with the San Antonio Brahmas in my power rankings portion of this video, the offensive line is going to need to find its rhythm fast, because this is a DC team that, when you look at that defensive front, if San Antonio can't figure out their offensive line and they can't gel early and often, they're going to get beat, because this is a DC defensive front that might prove to be one of the best, if not the best, in the league, and they have a ton of all-league caliber players on that defensive front, not only in the defensive line, but in the linebacking room as well. That offensive line is going to have to get really good really fast, and it's going to need to be able to slow down this DC pass rush that otherwise will wreak havoc in the backfield. Jordan Ta'amu and the DC Defenders ran a lot of play action last year, and I know it's a brand new, or not necessarily brand new system, but for the most part, a brand new cast, and there are a lot of new players that are coming into play here for this DC team. it's still going to be the same system, right? They're still going to run play action. They're still going to run these one read plays, the short plays that can go for long distances. So if the Brahmas can get some pressure back on play action plays and things like that, they're going to have a chance to be able to pull off this upset, and I think they will. I think they will be very, very close because, again, Jordan Teamu, I think, will have some growing pains with this new cast. The Brahmas have a ton of great defensive talent to be able to slow DC down. The offense is good enough to move the ball down the field and score some points when it needs to. However, that offensive line, and specifically the matchup on the line of scrimmage when the Brahmas have the ball, is just too much for me to not pick DC here in this game. The Brahmas will be close. They will play a good competitive game, but I do still think DC will be able to win this game. Just that matchup with how good their defensive front is versus this Brahmas retooled offensive line. And I mean, when you look elsewhere, DC probably has the more dynamic playmakers. They probably have the better defensive front. Well, they definitely have the better defensive front. They definitely have the better offensive line, at least to what I have seen up to this point. The Brahmas are going to be close, and the upset is going to be very close to happening. I do not think it gets pulled out, and I think that DC will be able to win their opening game, although they will be getting quite the scare from San Antonio. Last game here might very well be one of the better games to watch in terms of, again, when you look at where these two teams are in my power rankings, they are 5 and 6. They are very, very close to each other. This is probably the biggest toss-up game of the UFL Week 1. It's the Memphis Showboats and the Houston Texans. So first of all, I do want to point out that 3 of the 4 games being played in opening week of the United Football League are taking place in Texas because Arlington's at home, San Antonio's at home, and Houston is at home. So all 3 Texas teams are at home. Kind of wild and crazy to think about there in that regard. Let's start with the Memphis Showboats. What do they need to do to win this game? Well, I kind of talked about it when I was previewing this team and power ranking them and explaining why I had them power ranked where I did. Cookus and Victor are going to lead the charge here. That's the quarterback running back duo, in case you have already forgotten. But Cookus is a guy that is a very dynamic player, has a huge arm, and can hit that one down the field. When you talk about Victor, though, he's going to be a guy that's going to step up in the running back ways. And Cookus, while this might not be the most talented group of pass catchers for the Memphis Showboats, Cookus is going to be able to use these guys really, really well. He's going to be able to have each one of these guys sort of find their role, if you will. And this is just going to be a really fun, and I just think this is going to be a really fun, potentially dynamic offense to watch here. But again, Memphis is going to be able to stay in games here with their defense. And the defensive line, going to be a huge difference maker. Again, John Adkins here on this team, hugely important player. He is really, really good, and he's going to provide a ton of game-changing plays for the Showboats defensive line this year, especially if Mark Thompson is out and someone has to step up in the run game here. Houston is going to be very limited in what they could do offensively. I do believe there's going to be a new quarterback for this team, a couple new weapons. Again, probably one of, if not the best running back in the league, and Mark Thompson might be out. Defensive line for the Showboats is going to dictate a lot here. If they play well, this might be one that goes Memphis' way. If they don't and they can't get pressure and Houston's able to push them back, who knows? We'll see. But can the defensive back 7 step up and force some takeaways, especially if Mark Thompson is playing? Now, again, I touched on it already, that first bullet point for the Houston Roughnecks. If Mark Thompson is out, someone has to step up. There's other capable players in this backfield here, and Jarrett Guarantano has plenty of weapons to be able to work with. But this really is an offense for Houston that's going to have more questions than what the defense for Houston has, right? My question, though, is the defense going to be... Sorry, I just hit my microphone there. Apologies. Is the defense going to be enough to help Houston come out with the win? The defense is going to be a staple for Houston this season. It has been in previous years when they were the Gamblers in the USFL. This is an offense that is going to have some really good moments. But if Mark Thompson is out, I don't really know if they're going to be able to match what Memphis is going to be able to do. I think Cookus is going to have a very good game one. I think Victor's going to be able to do his thing on the ground. And I think that defensive line for Memphis might overall be one of the more underrated position groupings in the entire league. I think even though Houston is the 1 point favorite here, again, just goes to show you how big of a toss up this game is. And in fact, I've seen this line bounce back and forth as of recording this video. Last time I checked, it was Houston that was that favorite. I'm going with Memphis here to be able to win this game. 25-20 is where I got them. I think that defensive line takes over. They're going to be too much, especially if Mark Thompson is out. I don't really know if I trust this Houston team to be able to pull out that win. So how about that? I believe I picked all 4 road teams to pull off wins in the UFL opening week. But again, going to be a very, very fun season. Going to be very fun to watch all these teams, to learn about all of these squads. Hey, the UFL is here. Spring football, there's nothing quite like it. Hey, thanks for sticking with me. These videos probably going to be not this long in the future, as I did want to talk about just sort of every team in depth and why I placed them where I did. So thank you so much for watching. Again, I will upload 1 video a week on the UFL. It'll be, again, similar to this. I'll go through my power rankings. I'll talk about what happened last week and some adjustments they can make. And then we'll go ahead and predict games that happened. Hey, again, if you are a football fan and you want to see me cover the UFL, hit the subscribe button. If you're a college football fan, I got a lot of transfer portal stuff coming up. We're going to be looking at this past winter cycle and maybe sort of previewing what the spring cycle can hold here as well. But again, enjoy spring football. It is here. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. And again, remember to stay hydrated. Goodbye.